Well, hello, our fellow friends, our fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Our next trolley stop is here, and our next trolley stop is now. Welcome back to another all-new episode of PR from the Heart's Children's Book Spotlight Series. To be precise, we have reached episode number 235. That is the 235th trolley stop here at PR from the Heart, here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. My name is John Masiulionis, the manager here at PR from the Heart and the host of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, joined as always by my faithful furry friend and forever companion. He reminds me, John, I am not only your faithful furry friend and forever companion in this journey called life, but I'm also your co-host on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. Little Forrest likes to make his contributions with every single trolley stop that we celebrate together. We hope that all of you are doing well wherever you are, wherever you may be. We are now fully immersed in the month of February, and especially at the beginning of the new year. It's really important for us to take consistent evaluation within our lives, especially if we are parents, caregivers, and custodians of our children. And it's important, we really want our children to connect with their potential. But ideally, we want our little ones to be able to go above and beyond that, because one of the worst gifts is if there's a little one in your life and they only have that untapped potential. And even us as adults, whether it be during specific points in time in our path, or maybe you know a friend, a family member, or a colleague, and if you say it feels like they're about ready to kind of break through that proverbial glass ceiling, but they haven't gotten through to the other side of that. And our children have skills and gifts and talents beyond belief. But as the result of limiting beliefs, older stories, fears and worries that they have, and just, the world is not necessarily all rainbows and gumdrops, as we like to say here on the Children's Book Spotlight Series. You were absolutely correct, Little Forrest. The world is not always rainbows and gumdrops. But what we can do is, again, we as parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones, we can hold the space, we can provide the support, and we can remind our children that we are here to help them nourish their potential so that they can achieve their dreams, they can fulfill their wishes, and truly create whatever it is that they want to create. And leave it to close to 10 new children's books. I believe there is 10 children's books that we will be interweaving throughout the course of this particular trolley stop here together today, to remind children that we have got their back. Because one of the greatest feelings that children can connect to is when they have heartfelt children's book that helps them to see the way through whatever it is that they are moving through. We encourage all of you, once again, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, you can head on over to the official website of our featured guest here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series. And we've kept it simple. We've provided the link for Joe Galloway's official website in the description below. You can also head on over to Amazon.com if that is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Joe Galloway is by leaving that 5-star review for all 10 of her children's books. We're going to be going through each and every one. That's one of the great things about having deeper dives here at the Children's Book Spotlight Series. We can give each book the love, the care, the thought, and the intention that they deserve. Again, by leaving 5-star reviews for any of Joe's brand new children's books, that lets her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. The titles in no specific or particular order: The Magical Treasure Hunt, Building Confidence, The Magical Worry Balloon, I Am Different, I Am Me, Bully Proof, Keeping Out the Bullies, I Love School, Two Homes, One Heart, Angelic Dreams, Scared of the Dark, and there are several other titles as well, too. So this will help to, how does the expression go? To wet your whistle. I'm not sure if that's a big expression that's utilized in Australia. We utilize it here in the United States. We're actually, again, doing our part to spend some time in the land down under. We did just not that long ago on the Children's Book Spotlight Series with children's author Julie Basutto joining us as our featured guest here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight Series, one of the newest members of the PR from the Heart family, hypnotherapist and children's author Joe Galloway. Joe, thank you for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood and joining Little Forrest and myself. How are things with you today?
Oh, thank you, John. Great. Perfect. Having a great day.
That's awesome. And this is an episode of the program we've been looking forward to for quite some time. We always, of course, like to tend to some housekeeping right off the very bat. If these messages that we are sharing, there's so much that we're going to be covering here today in a good amount of time. But I know that there is a lot of parents out there, especially, 2025 is, if you're watching this in real time, it's depending on where in the world you live, it's maybe not necessarily gotten off to the best start. So maybe if you or your little ones are even moving through a wee bit more fear or worry or anxiety, or if you know someone that is moving through some sort of a challenging moment or season of their life, whether it be a mother, a father, a family in its entirety, or a little one especially, we want all of our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course our fellow shining stars, to let them know that they are fully supported, not only by watching episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, but moving forth from here. So again, if these messages that we are sharing, the messages found within Joe's children's books, and we're going to be cracking the cover and diving into the pages of those momentarily, and especially with the anthem of episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, helping our children nurture and achieve their potential to go above and beyond that. One of the many ways you can pledge your support for us here at PR from the Heart, for us here at the Children's Book Spotlight series, and also for Joe, is to subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. Join the more than 23,000 members of the PR from the Heart family, our loyal YouTube subscribers, and share this very special trolley stop that you are now enjoying. That is episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Joe, before we talk about your books, because again, we've got a lot to be able to cover, we always love to connect with an author's origin story. So I think we're going to be cracking a record here. We're going to be breaking a record. We're going to be chartering, is it uncharted new territory, if I'm not mistaken? That's how the expression goes. Whenever an author joins us on the program, there's always connecting to their origin story. And then there's the origin story of all of the children's books. So we literally have a dozen or close to origin stories that we're going to be sharing on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. You truly care about children. And that is probably an understatement, because there is, in the world in which we live in, one of the things that I feel that has changed as the result of the pandemic is you can genuinely feel if someone is doing whatever it is that they're doing, being of service to other people, that they're doing it for the right reasons, and you truly are. For those who are learning about your work for the first time, could you share with us where it all began for you, when you knew that a large part of your purpose and your mission was meant to better the lives of children and to help them achieve their potential? Was it a moment in time? Was it a glimmer? Was it a series of experiences that you experienced? Could you share with us a little bit more about that, if you could, to start things off?
Well, John, I probably have to go way back to I had a massive quantum shift in my life, and it got me thinking about our mind and how our mind works and how our mind creates our reality. So that led me to become a hypnotherapist and study the mind and study how we think. And so that led me to open a practice of hypnotherapy. And over the time, I started seeing clients, and we have a regression program where we take our clients back to the root cause of their concerns. So where did that feelings of anxiety or feelings of not feeling wanted, feeling of not loved originate? What was the root cause of this? And 90% of my clients would go back to their childhood, to the first, 7 to 10 years of their life. Some even went back further to in utero. They knew they weren't even wanted before they were even born. And others would go back to past lives, which was always very interesting. So this got me thinking, like, oh my God, I'm helping the wrong people. Somebody really needs to be helping the children, because this is where all our beliefs in ourselves are formed. And these beliefs, once they're formed in our childhood, become our reality as an adult. And we end up 20 or 30, 40 years later in therapy and seeing a hypnotherapist to solve these problems that was created in our childhood. So this got me on a path of I've got to save the children. So I started with just writing hypnotherapy scripts, just scripts on all the different issues that children tackle. They, the bedwetting, the scared of the dark, the fears, the anxiety, just all the little issues that the children suffer. And unless they're made clear to them and by parents and caregivers that they can't, they don't form a belief about themselves. You know, when they get into trouble, mum sends them to the room. It doesn't mean that they're not lovable, you know. So, and when they watch their parents, children are like sponges at that age, that first 7 years. They are absorbing everything their parents say, and they're absorbing everything their parents do. And so I just wanted to let parents know that, you know, your children are imprinting off you, and be so conscious of what beliefs they're picking up, because those beliefs are going to turn into who they are as adults. And so I gradually just started giving my scripts out. I had them recorded, and I would give them to my clients or anybody that had an issue with their child, like my child's not sleeping, my child wets the bed, or my child suffers anxiety. So I would give them my scripts, have your child listen to this. But it was always in the back of my mind. I truly believe in spiritual guidance, and Spirit was always saying to me, you need to get these into books. These need to be into books. These need, parents and caregivers and teachers, they need to read these books to their children. And because the more often you read these books, the more magical the results. It's not like a one-off child book that you read and toss away. The more the child hears the positive messages within the stories, the more they're going to sink into their and subconscious and become a reality for them. And it's literally going to change their lives for the better.
I can only imagine. And it's when we're given a big purpose and a big mission, it can seem overwhelming. We've had children's authors on the program over the past 6.5 years in different iterations. Some people will feel comfortable using the term spiritual awakening. Some people will just say the journey called life. Ultimately, it's kind of the same thing, so to speak. But oftentimes when you're given, especially if it's a divine purpose and a divine mission, I've been very transparent, especially recently in terms of my long-term vision of opening up a children's hospice for terminally ill children. And I remember that became clear after my grandmother passed away. So when you hear that someone has a divine purpose, a divine mission, it can seem very large. So I share this because through life, whether we have a divine mission or a big purpose, or if our purpose and our mission is just to, it can even just be a parent. It can be, being a mom, being a dad. It doesn't have to be this building of a children's hospice kind of thing. We're human, yet we're divine. So we can experience polarity and contrast, right? Again, it goes back to what I mentioned before. Everything is not always rainbows and gumdrops. We can experience challenges, difficulties, obstacles, problems, stressors, troubles, worries, you name it. What were some of the notable challenges, whether it be early on when you knew that this was the work that you had to do, whether it be in bringing these books to form and shape, because these books came to form and shape within a relatively quick period of time. This isn't like you launched 10 children's books over 30 years. They were within a relatively short span of time. So what were some of the notable challenges and difficulties that you experienced? And then what were some of the things that helped you to get through to the other side of those challenges and difficulties?
Oh, well, definitely having that open connection with Spirit. I truly believe when I sat down with an intention that this is the end result that I wanted to. I wanted to help children overcome, just say, scared of the dark. And I just sat down and I would just start getting, I call them downloads, start getting ideas of what, if I was a child and I was scared of the dark, what would help me. And I blended in with my hypnotherapy practice there. So I think that was just trying to get it to be more in a child's voice, how a child would understand it without being, I think the hardest challenge was the age groups of the children, selecting the age groups, because even though all children under the age of 7 are already in state of hypnosis, I needed to not put too many technical terms or that were a little bit over that child's age. So I think the challenges was the child's ages. So I wanted them to be read to young children while they're in that young stage of their lives and the stage of their mind, so they can absorb all the positive messages. So the biggest challenge was just knowing that because I was a hypnotherapist for adults, I needed to change my writing style to suit children.
And
Yeah,
this is
so
something with especially the world has changed, especially since the pandemic. Like before the pandemic, kids had their own issues that they were navigating through, but then there's been additional layerings, so to speak. Now, the good thing is that our children are very resilient. I feel that children, especially that come into the world right now, they know what they're here to do. They're not here to mess around. You know, some people will use different terminologies. You can say, like, you know, the crystal children or the children of this generation, whatever the case might be. But ultimately, the world can seem like a scary place. You mentioned the things that you were experiencing with challenges and what some of the things that specifically that you were able to do to help you move through those challenges. How important was it for you to be rooted and grounded? Because again, for those who are watching, they may not be, you know, familiar with the terminology. It's very easy to be distracted. Depending upon when you're watching this children's book spotlight series episode, if it's in real time, we just actually were navigating through the horrific fires in Southern California. There's been so many things since President Trump took office once again, just here in the United States. This is a relatively small sample size. 2025 in real time is approximately 6 weeks old, so to speak. So how important was it for you to step into greater grounding and even greater trust in yourself, knowing the fact that children and especially parents and caregivers and custodians of children in some way, shape, or form, they're relying on you?
Yeah, I just knew these books were going to help children without a doubt. Just like, you know, you've been told often enough that you are capable, and you get told that often enough, you will be capable. And if you get told often enough that you're never going to amount to anything, or you're always clumsy or useless, you will be clumsy and useless. So I just knew that my books were going to change the lives of children, and in that turn, create better adults for the future. So that with that knowing that I was on a passion and a mission to solve, you know, the not the problems of the world, but just let people enjoy their lives. And we all were here to have a fantastic life. And if we're not, you know, look at why we're not. So I wanted to make up the life good for everybody. I want everybody to have the life that I live. And so that was my mission. That was my guiding, you know, get these books in, get these writings into books for children, get them out there to the world. Let people read them and see and let them help the children. Yeah. So, and in that turn, it's also helping the parents, because the parents are reading these books to the children. So even though you have to read these books not like a normal bedtime story, you read these in a monotone voice, in a very slow, calm voice. And as you are reading them as a parent or a caregiver or a teacher, you're also, brainwaves are slowing down, and you are absorbing the positive messages as well. So not only are these helping the children, they're also helping the reader just absorb all the positivity of them. Yeah, so they have a bit of a cycle. Yeah.
I'm really glad that you also touched upon the thread, and we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth momentarily, is the fact that I can only imagine the parents that you've connected with, or even grandparents, right? We all have the inner child that still is within us. None of us are perfect. In some way, shape, or form, there is some form of either wounded older self or part that navigated through some form of trauma. Like, we're always healing until we, you know, go back up to heaven kind of thing, right? And so one of the things that I firmly believe is, well, it's important about children's books, especially now more than ever before, they really are healing tools, where if parents don't necessarily have the conversation, you know, if a parent, a mother, father's navigating through their own self-worth, self-confidence issues, and they take a look at, for example, the magical treasure hunt, Building Confidence, they may not know how to have a conversation with their kids about confidence because they're not necessarily confident within themselves. But this is where your books come in, and they're catalysts. They're not only tools, but they're also catalysts as well, too, so that there's not only inner strength, outer strength in the minds and the hearts of the children, but it also reflects externally mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, teachers, educators, etc., and so forth. We're actually, I should say, we're almost ready to crack the cover and dive into the pages of all of Joe Galloway's children's books here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. Once again, we encourage all of you, our listeners and viewers, our friends and neighbors, and of course, our fellow shining stars, you can head on over to Joe's official website, which we have included in the description below. One of the many ways as well that you can pledge your support for Joe, if Amazon.com is your preferred online vehicle of your choosing, that is, head on over to Amazon, leave 5-star reviews for the following, and there are more titles as well: The Magical Treasure Hunt, The Magical Worry Balloon, I Am Different, I Am Me, Bully Proof, Keeping Out the Bullies, I Love School, Two Homes, One Heart, Angelic Dreams, and Scared of the Dark. All of these titles and many more are available by heading on to Joe's official website and also Amazon.com. By leaving a 5-star review on Amazon, that lets Joe know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, for those who love great children's books. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and if they do not stock their copies of any of Joe's children's books, make that kind recommendation. Little tip of the cap. Let them know that you heard about them right here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. And of course, all teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents, all educators. 2025 is going to be a great year. It already is a great year for our kids, but we want to do our part to make it even better so that 2026 is that much more empowering. 2027 is that much more magical. If you are interested in scheduling your own author school visit with Joe, you can head on over to her official website. And of course, there's so many different messages that Joe is able to discuss with her students. And this is why we're going to be cracking the cover and diving into the pages of all of her books momentarily, and especially for all educators in the US and in Canada. One of the great things about this world that we live in right now is that when you have a great Australian children's author, you don't necessarily have to have your students travel to Australia. This is where the world of communication and all of these networking tools that we have is so essential and helpful. Joe, your children's books, it took me a while to kind of grasp the fact, because we're so used to having children's authors on the Children's Book Spotlight series where illustrations are a part of the books. So there's the part of me that said, okay, these books are different, but it honestly didn't take me very long, because one of the things that, and I'm not sure if anyone's ever communicated this to you, you are helping children to create their own illustrations. And I use that term in quotes. When they read the books, or if a parent or a caregiver, grandma, grandpa, a teacher, principal, librarian is reading the books to them, they can create their own visuals in their mind's eye, in their heart. And I think that's super cool. So this is like whenever author, maybe this is just like, the publicist side of me, whenever authors come into life, whether it be, clients, colleagues, friends, they say like, what's my hook? What's my hook as an author? And I feel that when something is even very authentic and transparent, it doesn't need to be a hook, right? Where it's a matter of you're helping children to connect even more to their creativity and their imagination. In terms of, before we talk about the books, you mentioned that it kind of seems like, and it feels like you had some direct divine downloads. That's a lot of alliteration there, so to speak. With having all of these books, were the messages given to you within a relatively short period of time? Because we've had some people that have been on the program where it's like, okay, I'm going to do this book, this book, this book. But some it's just like an inner filtration where it's like one at a time, focus on this one, take the time, promote this one, then on to the next one. You may already have the ideas in mind, but you're working on one book at a time. It sounds like this might necessarily have been a little bit different for you. Can you kind of take us back to the Wayback Machine one more time, since we're connecting to the origin stories of all of your books? Could you share with us really how all of these messages came to you?
Well, I first started with the worry balloon. That was my first one. It was just to help. I think a lot of it came from my grandchildren. I was modeling them from my grandchildren's issues. And so when there was an issue with one of my grandchildren, well, that was the book I was going to write. So I was going to concentrate on just making them feel better by relieving their anxieties. And so that book was, I did them one at a time. So I concentrated on one issue at a time. So the anxiety was the worry balloon, how to help children just feel better with that, not carrying so much burden and heaviness on them, how much better they feel without the worries. And that was the worry balloon. And the next one was, just the confidence building, letting children know that that was the treasure hunt, finding the confidence to be happy in who they are, happy with, confident, so confident to know that they like themselves, and to know that their body is beautiful exactly how it is. So just to let them know their body is beautiful, and know that they're good enough. So they don't have to compete against anybody else. They're good enough as they are. Mm-hmm. Who they are is good enough. And so they're confident, they're good enough, their body is beautiful. And just to build them that little bit of confidence in themselves, and that resilience, that they just know who they are. And so they all go on to different themes. So I did them one by one as I sort of got presented with an issue of what each child would be feeling at the time. They sort of just build on. Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that, and the two ones that actually struck a chord with me. And we try not to play favorites here on the Children's Book Spotlight series, number 1 and number 2. We don't like to try to give away the whole kit and caboodle. That's an old school vaudevillian expression, because of course we want to encourage people to purchase, read, enjoy, fully immerse themselves in the children's books that we're sharing on an episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series. But some of the things that I love about the magical worry balloon, I always love the visual of the balloon, because the balloon, it's a matter of, let's say if there's something that's weighing you down, it can be guilt, it can be judgment, it can be shame, it can be blame, it can be hatred, it can be so many different feelings, emotions, a hybrid of all of that, and then some. And if you imagine that those emotions and feelings are the balloon, they eventually lift up, then that's the visual that we want to try to paint for children. And the very end of all of your books, you obviously have to read it to be able to get to the very end, but I love the way in which all of your books close out. And I want to mention just these brief passages from the Magical Worry Balloon and the Magical Treasure Hunt. So the last page of the Magical Worry Balloon shares, "Tomorrow is a brand new day, feeling back in control. You can now easily, peacefully drift off to sleep. Good night, my little starlight. Sweet dreams." So that is the end of the Magical Worry Balloon. And then the end of the Magical Treasure Hunt, it has a little bit of a similar vibe, but it's obviously a little bit different. Good night, little star. Remember, you are truly amazing. You are lovable. You are beautiful. You are enough. I'm not necessarily sure how big Mr. Rogers was in Australia. He was the host of the long-running popular children's television program here in the United States, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He was someone who was truly a caregiver and custodian of children for decades. And he always ended episodes of The Neighborhood by sharing and communicating, "I like you and I love you just the way that you are." You talked about this earlier in our time together, the fact that kids' minds and hearts are like sponges. And even in many respects, our minds and hearts are like sponges, but we've built that tape that's in our head that says, I remember years ago when I first was introduced to the work of Dr. Wayne Dyer, he compared like our inner voice to like Morse code, da-da-da-da, I'm not worthy, da-da-da-da, I'm stupid, da-da-da-da, I'm ugly. And it takes us some time to rewrite those old scripts. Whereas the narratives that children are experiencing, they are just beginning to be conditioned to all of that. So this is why being able to share these kinds of messages with children early on in life is absolutely essential. Talk to that thread, especially because whether it be children, whether it be adults, I'm the kind of person, I don't like to try to give up on myself. I don't like to try to give up on other people. Oftentimes, if someone is moving through something very heavy, you kind of have to just, let go and let God, as the expression goes, so to speak. But specifically talk to us to the thread about tending to these issues with kids right now. Why is it important that we talk to kids about their emotions and feelings? Why is it paramount for them to be able to let us know whatever it is that they're moving through, in your opinion? You've obviously had the chance to be able to communicate with children and parents and families that are moving through different sorts of things in life. Why do you feel through your lens that that's important now more than ever before?
Oh, I think it's important to understand that all our feelings come after our thought. Our thoughts are everything is a thought. Everything became and started with a thought, and feelings come after a thought. They're not. We don't feel this way. It's what are you thinking to make you feel that way? So my book sort of bring you back to think your thoughts, how you can change your thoughts and enhance change your thoughts. So as Wayne Dyer says, you will change your reality. So you know, I'm a strong believer in positive affirmations and just positivity and changing the story, changing, you know, we've all got, like you said, we've all got history and we've all got things that, you know, we wish we didn't have, but we do. But if you can just change your story, change how you think about it, you know, in the end, you'll end up understanding it a lot better. So my always thing is, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? If you're feeling this way, what are your thoughts that are leading you to feel this way? So I strongly believe in be careful what you're thinking. Yeah.
And I'm glad that we're talking about this as well, too, because, again, this isn't necessarily just children, especially with adults, right? You know, we can oftentimes I use the expression like when we have something come up, emotions or feelings, like if you have a dresser in your bedroom and it's got the different drawers, and sometimes we have to compartmentalize things. Something comes up, we got to put it in the drawer. But when we keep putting things in the drawer, then we can also find ourselves burying the things deeper in the drawer. Like, you know, sometimes when you're cleaning out your dresser drawer and it's like, wow, I didn't know that I had this pen or these batteries that I had here. It's like you just stuff those things down. And I feel that this is really a call to action, not only for our children, but also for us as adults, because kids are looking up to us. Right. And if they see, you know, no one has their act together. We're all, how does the expression go? We're all works of art, yet we're works in progress at the same point in time, too. But I know that I've had the chance to speak with a lot of people, just whether it be people that are coming into my life now or even just people that I've known for a long period of time. And it really feels like 2025 is a year of breakthroughs, where if there's things that you've been struggling with for a long period of time, this is the year where you can get through to the other side of that. Like, why not now, so to speak? And oftentimes it's a matter of we tend to use a lot of visuals here and like examples like this here, Joe, on the children's book Spotlight series, when you're a blacksmith and you keep doing the blacksmith thing, right? And when bamboo comes up through the ground, you never know. It's all of the work that you're doing over the span of time. It's the affirmations that you're doing every night before bed. It's the journaling that you're doing. It's the morning prayer that you're doing. It's the combination of all of those things. And eventually you look back like, you know, when you hear the expression, the only time you look back is to see how far that you've come. Just not that long ago, I had the chance, it was because it's been almost 4.5 years since I moved out to San Diego. Again, real time that we're communicating. And it's like, wow, like I remember moving across the country from Buffalo, New York to San Diego. And I had a vision. I said, I need to get out to San Diego. I don't necessarily know all of the ins and the outs, but I need to get there. And I had to trust. And I moved through my own fears and insecurities and anxieties and all of that, and then some, but I got here. And I look back on my life and it's like, wow, like I'm very blessed and very fortunate to be in a much better space now than where I was before. But again, sharing this from my heart, because when we take the time this is another thing that I want to talk about as well, that your books really help me to remember, not only for myself, but I'm sure also for other people, the importance of giving yourself credit along the way and taking stock with how far that you've come. We can continue to be very hard on ourselves. And then when we take the time to do that, then our kids are saying, okay, then I should be hard on myself too, so to speak. Could you talk to us about that specific thread about, you know, when you're making progress, maybe it's not the progress that you want to be making on X, Y, Z, but it is progress nonetheless. Why do you feel that it's needed to especially be more compassionate to ourselves, and why it's important for us to be able to remind our children of that as well, too?
Well, as you said, our children are watching us. So even though I'm helping the children, but if you help yourself, you're helping your children. Your children are watching you help yourself. Self-care is not selfish. So everything that you do for yourself is benefiting your children as well. So I really believe in, taking the time for yourself, taking your time to understand that inner child, understand what's triggering you, understanding so your children are watching you and they're learning from you. So um, making yourself that number one priority is beneficial for your children, whether you know it or not. And having that faith, I think I'm a strong believer in faith. I set my intentions, and I just going back to Wayne Dyer again. Wayne Dyer once said, I've got so much patience because I have complete faith that's going to happen. So I don't need to be impatient. I don't need to try and do anything because I have faith that it's going to happen. So that gave me patience. And that, when I heard that years ago, that really resonated with me because I was I had no patience when I was younger. But now that I have a lot more faith in my life and what I expect from my reality, I can just let it happen. So that's another trait that's worth nurturing. Just faith that if this is what you want and this is the intention how you want to see your life and see where you're going, just have faith that it's in progress. It's just happening. It's going to happen, and don't worry about how it's going to happen because it will happen if you just stay focused.
I'm glad that you're also mentioning that thread because everything does happen in its proper timing. Now, again, when you're in the midst of something, and I've had to remind this to myself and different people in my life, sometimes if someone is moving through something that's very strong, very sensitive, very raw, the last thing they want to hear is it'll happen when it's meant to, right? If someone is moving through a recent breakup, right? It's sometimes people just want to have the lending of the compassionate ear, the opening of the empathic heart where you're just listening and you're holding the space. But ultimately, yes, things do happen in their proper timing. And when you do these little things that may not seem little, but they really add up, the little fundamental things, that taking the time to be compassionate and empathic to yourself, to take stock of the progress that you've made along the way, to celebrate things as well too, because our children are reminding us that life is meant to be enjoyed. Us as adults, we can take life way too seriously. We can be jaded and cynical and, oh, this is happening in the world and this and that. So 2025 is just going to be like all the other previous years. Our kids want us to have fun as well too. I also love the fact that you're not afraid to tackle some very sensitive subjects that children move through and that families as the result go through. And so, for example, talking about bully proof, keep out the bullies, 2 homes, 1 heart. Bullying and divorce are 2 of the most difficult things that children will ever experience through the course of their lives, because it has an impact not only on them right now in this very moment, but it really sets the tone and the foundation for their teenage years, when they grow up, when they decide to get married and or have kids on their end of things. Why was it essential for you? I mean, you could have just written children's books about, the rainbow and gumdrop energy kind of thing, but you really went straight to the core with some of these titles. Even like you have a super cool book on bedwetting as well too. And sometimes that can be like a subject that it's like, well, I really don't want to share to the world that my little one is moving through that kind of an issue. Right. So why was it essential for you to talk about, some of the lighter kinds of things, right? And the super empowering things, but to talk about those sensitive things that, with a full circle moment to one of the other titles of your book, Scared of the Dark. Some people think that those things just belong in the closet.
Yeah, well, I think that you've hit the nail on the head there with the communication. I think the thing children have issues with that they'll form beliefs about is because of our lack of communication as parents. We don't seem to think that the children are listening to us or understanding it, and they're making their own assumptions of what's going on. And so we just get on with what's going on and in our lives, trying to do it best we can. And we all parenting from how we were parented. without stopping and taking the time to think, what is the child thinking about this? What beliefs were they forming about this is happening? So I really wanted to instill that communication between parent and child, so that the child, all their feelings are taken into consideration. How they do feel when they're bullied at school, how are they feeling when their parents are going through a divorce or separation. Sometimes we don't take the time to explain the whole situation to children. In that case, that's when they go and form beliefs about themselves that, well, I'm not important, or, I'm not worthy, or, so they start believing these things about themselves only because of that lack of communication from the parent. And I think my books open up that communication. They just start getting that parent and the child talking about that issue, whatever it is that the child is feeling. So it's that bonding with the children. It's that opening up to their feelings and their thoughts and getting it all out on the table and being able to talk about all life issues and getting down to the thoughts and the feelings behind all the issues. And I think when the children have got a greater understanding of what's happening, they are a lot happier,
Yes.
so they're not thinking about what's going on and they don't understand. I think once you make them they understand everything, they're fine with it, because you said the children are so resilient. But the problems start when they don't understand and they start thinking about, are they the problem here? So, being clear and having that communication with the children, I think that's one great benefit of these books. Yeah.
And one of the things and thank you for sharing that, by the way, going back to the endings of all of your books are so powerful. And there's other things in the books besides the endings, but surround yourself in a bully-proof bubble of protective light and smile. You are safe, you are strong, and you are protected. So knowing this and believing this, it is time to drift slowly off to sleep. Good night, my beautiful starlet. Remember, you are brave. You are bully-proof. Sweet dreams. I can only imagine, bullying has been talked about in different ways, shapes, and forms. And I mean, again, those who are walking a spiritual path and spiritual awakening, they'll understand what it means to surround yourself with a bubble of light. If that may sound a little woo-woo to some people, if anything, just reminding children that they're protected. Because safety is one of the biggest things for kids. Kids want to know that they're safe, and it's up to us as parents and caregivers and custodians of children to remind them that they are safe. Because if there is someone that is bullying them, and it can be, a fellow classmate, it can be, a neighbor down the street. Sometimes kids can even be bullied by people within their family. And then that can create a situation where a child may not know what to go or where to go or what to do. So again, one of the cool things about your books as well, as I said, they really are healing tools. They're tools that help kids connect to their own inner tools as well too. And that is such a good feeling. We're beginning to wind down our time with our feature guest during episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series, hypnotherapist and children's author Jo Galloway. We are fully immersed in all of her brand new children's books. We have been cracking the cover and diving into the pages of several of them. Again, they are now available. You can head on over to Jo's official website, which we've included in the description below, in addition to Amazon.com. We encourage you to purchase, enjoy, read, and fully immerse yourself within the pages of The Magical Treasure Hunt, Building Confidence, The Magical Worry Balloon, Bully Proof, Keeping Out the Bullies, I Am Different, I Am Me, I Love School, Two Homes, One Heart, Angelic Dreams, Scared of the Dark. And there are other titles as well too. By leaving 5-star reviews on Amazon.com for any or all of Jo's books, that lets her know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and as we like to say here on the Children's Book Spotlight series, those who love great children's books. If you head on over to your favorite local library, your favorite children's or independent bookstore, and they do not stock their copies of any or all of Jo's books, make that kind recommendation. Let them know that you heard about them right here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series. And for all educators, teachers, principals, librarians, school superintendents. If you would like to facilitate an author school visit with Joe as part of your 2025 school year, or if you are watching this episode into the future, 2026 and 2027, Joe's mission is not complete. She's going to be around for a long period of time, so you'll be able to connect with her for author school visits in the future as well, too. And again, some of the great things we've already talked about with Joe, there are so many different themes and messages that can be curated as part of an author's school visit with Joe, whether it be in person for all educators out in Australia or remotely in the United States, Canada, any of the other countries around this beautiful world that we live in. Being able to communicate with our children and just have these sorts of open dialogues, I feel, is very important. And we live in a world where we have these distractions, such as social media and the television, and now there's even more digital devices than ever before. One thing that I really wanted to touch on briefly, but to hold the space for this as we talk about this, is the importance of spending time with your kids. That's something that can seem very like duh, right? Like, let's spend time with our kids. But as parents, when we're moving through our challenges and we have the to-do list, which has the 65 things on it, and then the 66 could be, oh, spend time with kids. I don't have time to do that. Could you speak to that specific thread, from your work as a hypnotherapist, your work as a children's author, even though children's needs have kind of changed a little bit here and there over time, ultimately at the core, kids just want to know that their mom, their dad, whoever the parental figure in their life is, actually cares about them and wants to spend time with them.
Definitely. I think every child has needs, and other than clothing, shelter, food, all children need to be seen. They need to be heard. They need to know that they're loved, and they need to know that they're wanted. And just spending that time with them, it helps them I'm always going on about them forming beliefs about themselves, but children will form roles that they'll play. They'll play different roles to get those needs met. My child is very naughty. My child is always sick. My child is, they have 3-4 different roles. They can either be the naughty one. They can even be the good one and the brilliant one that never causes any trouble with their child. And so they think, oh, my child is always doing well. I never have to worry about them. I don't need to spend time with them. They're so good. But that being good like that is a role that child's trying to play to get that attention. And if they're not the good one, they'll be the naughty one. So they're the child that's always the demanding one, the one that never does as they're told, and they're the challenge one. But that's just the role that child's playing to get that seen and heard and understood from their parents. Well, they could be the sick one. Like, a child goes from one illness to the next, and well, that's a role that child's playing. There's a need there, the underlying subconscious need that the child's trying to fill. Or they got the brewing one or the caring one. You can see the children that they care for everybody else in the family. They're always the one that's looking after the younger brothers and sisters and helping out. And so the role of being the carer is a role that child's taking on to get those needs to be seen, heard, and met. So if you can look at your children and you can see their behaviours, then you might be able to look, well, that's why their behaviour is, the bottom line is to be seen, heard, understood, and have quality time with mum and dad. And when that's fulfilled, any behaviour that the child was suffering or having, it seems to just disappear because the need for that behaviour is gone now because the need's been met. So as parents, we can understand that our children have so many needs, and their behaviour is the way that they're trying to get that need from us. So instead of saying, go to your room, maybe come down to the child's level and say, well, why are they behaving that way? That behaviour is because I'm not giving them the attention or it's just children need to be understood. They need to know that you see and hear them. And once that they know that, well, the tantrums will just disappear, because it's all just a behaviour it's a subconscious behaviour to get that need filled. Yeah, so the quality time and that 15 minutes a day just reading these books to your children can solve a lot of that need A lot of that need. When you just take 15 minutes out of your day to spend quality time reading a bedtime story to your child, whether it's mine or any bedtime story, that is fulfilling and ticking every box that a children of their needs that they have. The parent is taking the time. They're listening to them. There's a one-on-one time. And that's all children want. All they want is that one-on-one with their parents. And
It's true.
simple task of reading 15 minutes a day a story to your child. And best thing about my stories, they're not just bedtime stories. They've got a healing to them as well. So it ticks all the boxes for parent and child. Yeah.
One of the things that I also really enjoy about your work in your children's books as well, we live in a society in which when we see a child moving through anxiety, to give them a label, they have an anxiety disorder, right? But there's always a root cause. And sometimes if the root cause is a little bit deeper or more ingrained, sometimes you do have to be mindful of the surface and treat the surface, right? But being able to get to those root issues, I firmly believe when we allow our children to safely express their emotions and feel their feelings and let them know that there's nothing inherently wrong with them, we're creating the next generation that is not as reliant on therapists or the medications and things of that nature. And we're really creating a stronger, more empowered generation of children, because every year it seems that the mental health statistics, the numbers with those who are navigating through mental health challenges, especially our children, they go this way. They keep going this way. I would love to see just one year where it's like a little bit of a downtrend, so to speak. And so again, like being able to connect with the root issues, it's very important, taking the time to read to your children and ultimately just letting them know that you are there, even amidst the to-dos, to say, hey, I'm in the midst of this and this right now. I want you to know that I'm not ignoring you right now in this moment. I'm just tending to this one specific thing. Can we circle back in 20 minutes or 30 minutes and we will tend to this? Just having that communication that took 5 seconds for me to say, right? We want to be mindful of, we're not telling parents how to raise their kids here. We're just being able to provide some useful and supportive tips, tools, and strategies. And that's one of the things that we really love to do, especially as we begin to close out a children's book spotlight series. Those who watch the program since day one, parents, caregivers, educators, librarians, we like to be able to provide them with useful and supportive tips, tools, and strategies that they can implement into their own life, as well as to be able to implement into the lives of their children, whether it be their children, their grandchildren, their students, those children that they're blessed to watch over, be a caregiver to, etc. Being able to connect with meditation, I feel, is very important for all of us. Being able to have that stillness, because in a world with a lot of noise, just allowing some of that quiet space to come in really helps. Children can, and you probably have heard this, you've probably seen pushback from kids, I don't wanna, meditation's stupid, or different sorts of iterations of that. Two things with this question. One is, can you really share with us, because again, meditation can seem like a buzzworthy kind of term, but what does meditation feel like, sound like, look like to you in 2025? And specifically, what are some of the things that we can do to help not only our children, but also ourselves connect that much easier to meditation, where it doesn't seem like a chore, where it doesn't seem like it's something on the to-do list?
Well, it's been widely known meditation has so many benefits, and these books start children off on a meditation practice. You mentioned before, children now are becoming, to be able to be self-regulate is, they're not trying to get, they're able to, instead of suffering anxiety, they can regulate that. And I think meditation is a way to teach them how to self-regulate their emotions. So it's also that time where the children can just, stillness, just listen, just say, sit in stillness for a while, to just sit, maybe just concentrate on their breathing, listen to the birds outside, concentrate on all the noise around them. So it's not, they're doing something, but they're doing nothing. It's the sort of thing. And that's why meditation, I think, is so hard, because it's so hard for a lot of us to do nothing. what's meditation? It's just sitting down doing nothing, so how hard could that be? But when you've got this really overactive mind, that's where it comes challenging. And it's just a matter of time of just the more you do it, it's like any muscle. The more you do it, the more easier it gets, and the longer that you'll be able to stay in that period of stillness. And when you're in that period of stillness, you get so much clarity. You get so that's when you can regulate your emotions, and you get that more understanding of what's happening, and you can just, that saying, just be still for a while and think about it. So spending that few minutes a day in meditation, you can get it's like a bird's eye view of what the real picture is, without letting your ego mind create scenarios that aren't real to you. So I think it's so important that everybody meditate, especially teach our children. If we meditate, our children will meditate. So the great thing about my books is people say, well, where do I start learning a meditation practice? Well, if you just read these 15-minute books to your children, you're going to learn how to just quieten your mind, concentrate on your breathing, just gradually see a visualization, and just start small. Just start with 5 minutes a day, and then go to 10 minutes a day, and just take the time to just sit and do nothing. And I think the more people do that, the more health benefits it's going to have, huge benefits for your health, also for your mental health.
Yeah, so. And this goes back to the expression, I forget who first said it, but start with where you are right now with what you have. Because, there's different, I mean, you can do a full-blown meditation retreat in, Bali, right? But if you don't necessarily have the ability to get out to Bali, you can just go out into nature and watch the sunrise, right? And that's something that's available to most of all of us, so to speak. And just being able to recognize again that you can start with where it is that you are. I know one of the things that I've been doing recently, I gravitate to solfeggios, which are sound healing. There's different, meditations you can listen to, because sometimes, if minds are a little overactive to a certain extent, you may need a little bit more assistance to help quiet the mind. And one of the things that I've been doing is actually listening to meditations that have Bible passages. So there's different, there's no one way to meditate, right? You can just literally sit Indian style on your love seat, right? You can go out into nature. You can do the full-blown meditation retreat. You can listen to solfeggios. There's no cookie cutter model that is just, this is how you meditate. It's just about, it's about calming the mind. It's about going within and just reminding yourself that when you do take the time to do that, you can look at those emotions and feelings and the trauma and the pain and all of that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be the thing that you have to stuff down or compartmentalize. It doesn't have to be the big purple elephant in the room anymore. You can just say, wow, I'm actually more aware of this, and I'm stronger than where I was before in the process. Again, just want to mention, while we're connecting, the fact that there are so many different messages, so that no matter whatever your child, your grandchild, your prize student is navigating through, there's so many different books to choose from. And again, I give you a lot of credit for doing this, because it would be very easy to just say, take one children's book, focus on it all at a time. But our world needs these kinds of resources, because unfortunately there are children that are moving through different things at the same point in time. So again, just some of the titles that are available: The Magical Treasure Hunt, which again helps kids to build their confidence. The Magical Worry Balloon helps kids to end anxiety and worry. I Am Different, I Am Me helps kids to remember the fact that they are very unique, the importance of celebrating your differences, honoring who you are, your worth and your value. Again, Bully Proof. It's interesting. We had the opportunity, one of our favorite members of the PR from the Heart family, a best-selling children's author, Mary Young's written a children's book called Pink Shoes. And we had the opportunity to work together with her for her national book media tour during this past back-to-school season, a National Bullying Prevention Month. A call to action for parents and for educators. Bullying just doesn't happen during those 2 months of the year. So being able to have this resource is very important. Once again, I love school. I know at times growing up, I really feel that I didn't love school. So if kids can just remember the fact that school can be something like, I get to do this. I get to go to school, not I have to go to school. Two Homes, One Heart. Again, for those children who are moving through divorce, it can be one of the most sensitive, raw experiences that not only children, but parents can move through. And we want our children to know that both parental units love them exactly how they are, and that they didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Because ultimately, if a child is moving through some sort of, if their parents are, even if they're just separated, not even full-blown divorce, it's very easy for a child to say, what did I do? Or, how can I make things better? So having this resource is essential. Angelic Dreams and Scared of the Dark, a little sneak peek for those who are watching in real time, the newest episode of PR from the Heart's Neighborly Reviews Bookcast, which is the sister program of the Children's Book Spotlight series. David Newell, of course, we remember him and we love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the popular long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, but we know him and we love him as David Newell. David and I will be cracking the cover, diving into the pages, and delivering heartfelt reviews of Angelic Dreams and Scared of the Dark. So a little sneak peek for what is to come if you are watching this into the future beyond February of 2025. It's now available. You can head on over to PR from the Heart's official website and PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel. So if you are wanting if your children or your child is moving through some sort of sleep issues, sleep disturbances, nightmares, they're scared of the dark. I already remember when I was a kid, I had that little trusted nightlight and I couldn't go to sleep unless I had my little nightlight. So again, Joe, I really want to commend you for not only sharing these books, but you're really tackling them in a very kid-friendly, parent-friendly way that's meeting children wherever they're at. And you're doing this also while inspiring kids to create their own illustrations. So again, noting the fact that your books, they are all words. So really the importance of one of the last things that I wanted to talk about is having that presence with your child, with your grandchild, with your student. Sometimes when we're reading, the phone might be going off or there's the pasta that's being cooked on the oven. So you might not necessarily be able to give your child the presence. Not necessarily just about these books, but I do think it is important when we're spending that time with our children. Talk to us about the being there with them within that time, because children know if you're here or if you're there. And especially when it comes to reading your books, they have to know that you're there. Otherwise, they're not going to get it.
Well, as you said, these aren't picture books. So the child has to be in a relaxed, in bed or, laying down. So the parent has to be fully conscious to read these books because they're taking them on a journey. They're taking them on a meditation. So they'll get the child to do different breathing techniques and they'll do visualization so that the parent is involved in the story just as much as the child is. And why I do the meditation before the story, it sort of helps the child to get relaxed and to be open subconsciously to all the positive suggestions. And as a parent is reading this story, they have no choice but be 100% in the story because they're also getting drawn into the meditation side at the beginning of the books. So they've got a kickback on both ways. So parents you can't rush through these stories. They're not like I remember reading to my kids when they were little. I'll skip a couple of pages, but they know, you've missed a bit, you've missed a bit. So in these stories, they flow into, and so the parents they get drawn into the journey as well. So it's a very bonding time because they're into that beta brainwave together, and they're just it's very relaxing and it's very calming. And you'll find even after you've read one of the stories in that slow, calm voice, that you feel better about it, but you feel enlightened as well. So it is a very good time to spend with your child just as they're going to sleep. And also when you're winding down at night as well. So they help both ways.
Agreed. And this is also why it was important for us to be able to open the space and share all of these important messages during the course of our time here together, because our kids need us, and not to necessarily say we're there. I mean, yes, to a certain extent that they're relying on us, but we want to do our part to create the next generation of empowered children, so that they're not necessarily relying on us as much. And then when they're getting older, that they can be comfortable, confident. That's like, you know what? life doesn't have to be scary. Like, I've got this, whatever this thing is that happens to come across their path in the future, they know that they've got this. The two ways that we always close out every children's book spotlight series episode, whenever we feel his presence and we feel his spirit, whenever we do a trolley stop here on the program on the children's book spotlight series, we remember the late Fred Rogers. And of course, the host of the long-running popular children's television program here in the States, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. He did this in many ways, shapes, and forms, Joe, and he always kept the time, whether it be 15 seconds, 30 seconds, or a full minute. He did this during times in the neighborhood when he spoke college commencement speeches, different talks across the country, when he went into hospitals to visit sick children. He always encouraged us to remember those who helped love us into being. That was his way of saying, remember those people, those very special people who helped us to remember that we have the skills and the gifts and the talents within, that we do have confidence, that we do have worth, that we do have value, that not only we have worth and we have value, that we have inherent worth and inherent value. It's long since been said that it takes a village to do what it is that we need to do with our missions and purposes here in life. Who are some of the people that you would like to publicly recognize here on episode number 235 of the Children's Book Spotlight series that have helped love you, Joe Galloway, into being?
Oh, without a doubt, it's my grandmother. I've had a bit of a shady, well, not shady, but a bit of a history when I was younger, and my grandmother was the one that was behind me 100%. She always had complete faith that I would, turn out all right. So, and she even told me once that I was going to be an author. But yeah, my grandmother, she always had, I know parents parent from how they parent, and the parents parent from how they will parent. But my grandmother was the one that, I was the naughty one in my family. The roles I played, I was the challenge for my family. And my grandmother always was there to understand. She seemed to be the one to understand that this is the role that I was playing. And she understood that the needs that I needed to be fulfilled. So she always took the time to, when I was, being, disobedient or, to my parents, she always, said, it's okay, Joe, and she always made me feel like I had somewhere to go. And I think that, was just knowing that I had my grandmother there. So when I was sent to my room, I always had my grandmother. So I'd call for my grandmother, and I just had that bond with my grandmother. She understood me. So I think that's, if any praise, I would go to my grandmother, because she's the one that gave me my strength to know that I was understood, and then somebody does love me and somebody does understand me. Because I had even though I was given everything as a child, I had very busy parents. And I also had that generation where parents didn't tell you they loved you, or told you they spoke about love, and they didn't show they loved. Children were seen and not heard. So I grew up with those beliefs that, well, it's something wrong with me. I'm not important. I'm not lovable. And that led me to create my reality as in my adulthood. But I always had that this wasn't true, because my grandmother did love me. My grandmother was always there for me. So even though I could think, oh, well, I'm not lovable, but that I knew that was not, that was a lie, because my grandmother loved me. So I think it just only takes one person to change a village. Like you said, only one person. If everybody just had that one person that they knew had complete faith in them and understanding, I think that's will save us from a road less traveled, a road that's dark side.
And it is, and I appreciate you connecting us with the special bond that you have with your grandmother. We have similar threads amongst that, with the connections that we have with our grandmothers. It's long since been said, and Fred said this, and I'll paraphrase it, that whether those individuals, those earth angels of sorts, are near or far, whether they're still with us walking this earthly plane, or they're watching down from heaven, that they're smiling, knowing the indelible impact that you're making on children and parents and families across the country and around the world. Because one of the great things that we have the ability to do here with the Children's Book Spotlight series is, especially again with interviewing Julie Basutto recently, and now interviewing yourself, there are so many talented children's authors from around the world that we have the ability to help share their stories with children and parents and families and educators that are here in the States, that are here in Canada, in other countries around the world. These messages, they are so much needed. In addition to being huge fans of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, we're also huge Disney buffs here at the Children's Book Spotlight series. And there is something about the Disney magic, Joe. It helps us to remember that we have the ability to bring to form and shape our dreams, our desires, our goals, our ambitions. We have the ability to fulfill our own wishes. And thus we have the ability to do that for those who come into our life, whether it be family members, loved ones, friends, colleagues, clients, fellow neighbors. We have the ability to help them fulfill their dreams, their desires, their goals, their ambitions, to fulfill their wishes. We go back to the year 1992. It was a great year. It's hard to believe with each passing year, that year just becomes more in the rearview mirror. We remember the late beloved comedian Robin Williams. He voiced the genie of the lamp in Disney's iconic animated classic Aladdin. So we close out every children's book spotlight series with a little segment that we like to call Three Wishes. So this tried and true genie lamp has taken us across many trolley stops over the past 6.5 years. So, Joe, you have freely given from your heart, not only to your family, not only to children, parents, and families and educators in Australia, but worldwide. So you're being given the opportunity to receive here. So you are being given and gifted 3 wishes here on the Children's Book Spotlight series. According to the Genie of the Lamp, there's only 2 automatic disqualifiers. You can't make anyone fall in love with you. That has to happen organically, and you can't ask for more wishes. So these wishes, they can be for yourself, they can be for your family, they can be for the children of the world. What would your 3 wishes be?
Well, my first wish would be for the children, and I wish conscious parenting for the children. I just, if parents were, when we were all born, parents go to a antenatal class to know how to give birth to a child, but do they learn? We don't come with manuals. Do they learn how to parent? So I wish for conscious parenting schools around the world. So I wish that all parents can understand those first 7 years, so they understand who they're parenting, who they're the needs of their child. And so I think we really need to help parents. There's no such thing as parenting school. You hear that all the time, but why isn't there such thing as parenting school? Because this is one of the biggest jobs in the world, to parent a child. You're creating the future of tomorrow. So I think parenting that first 7 years is so important. So I wish for more education out there for parents. My second wish would be meditation. I think to help with that would be meditation, to start meditation practices in schools. Every 10 minutes at the beginning of a day, just getting children just to sit and stillness. And then in 10 minutes at the end of the day, they just sat and reflect on how their day was, and the having gratitude for their day. I think that would send them off with so much more mindset. And so I really would wish that meditation was one of the first subject that was in every school. And it doesn't have to be a full hour-long session. It's just something that they did at least once a day to kick off their day or to end their day. As I always say, as the Dalai Lama says, if every 8-year-old child was taught meditation, the violence would be end of violence within a whole generation. So there is a benefits of meditation. So I really believe that meditation should be out there for all children to learn. My wish would be my books. I wish my books were read to millions of children around the world, and making a difference to every child in the world and a difference to every parent in the world. So I wish that my books change lives and make life better for all the readers that read them.
Back to and thank you for sharing all of those wishes. It's also long since been said that when one's wishes come from one's heart, they have a greater chance of coming true. And that's so true when we share that, especially when it comes to meditation. I go back to when I was in grammar school. It was a little bit of a different time. It was, late 80s, early 90s into the mid 90s. And it was a matter of looking back. It's like, if only children, I know that the old tried and true model, at least for when I went to school, was like, science, health, religion, social studies. There's the different kinds of classes, but if you had meditation, emotional wellness, financial planning, like if we could kind of, teach our kids a little, and that's probably another conversation for another time, but just, I mean, if all schools, if all families were even just open to the conversation of just saying, give kids time to be themselves, give kids time away from the screens. There's an expression that we use every now and again. We shift from the screen time to the green time. There's just so much more that can shift for the children in our lives. One of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature. It's similar to, yet a little bit different, if you live here in the States and or if you're big movie buffs. If you remember, during the 80s and 90s, there was an iconic movie critic duo named Siskel and Ebert. And when they loved a movie, they gave it 2 thumbs up. Well, little Forrest, of course, loves to contribute to every children's book spotlight series episode. And when we share and feature a brand new children's book, or in this particular instance, books on a children's book spotlight series episode, little Forrest, in this particular instance, is proud to give 2 paws up for all of Joe's children's books. So technically speaking, if you do the math, 10 times 2, there's 10 children's books. So it's actually 20 paws up. This is something that's never happened on a children's book spotlight series episode. But again, one of the fastest growing endorsements in the world of children's literature is when little Forrest gives 2 paws up for a children's book that we are featuring. So once again, just some of the titles that we've had the chance to briefly touch upon: The Magical Treasure Hunt, The Magical Worry Balloon, I Am Different, I Am Me, Bully Proof, I Love School, 2 Homes, 1 Heart, Angelic Dreams, and Scared of the Dark, among other titles. So thank you, little Forrest, for your contribution to this particular trolley stop of the children's book spotlight series. When we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. But fear not, there are many more magical trolley stops to come on forthcoming editions of the children's book spotlight series. Raise your hand if you have had fun, by the way, on episode number 235 of the children's book spotlight series. Hands up from Joe Galloway, hands up from myself, paws up from little Forrest, hands up from the little ones on screen. As we like to say, that means mission accomplished, job well done. If these messages that we have shared, we've talked about a lot during episode number 235 of the children's book spotlight series in a relatively short period of time. But now if you feel lighter, if you feel less worried, you feel less stressed, you feel less anxious, we hope that you do. And if anything, if there's still someone, whether it be a mom, a dad, a family member, a friend, a child that you know that is navigating through some sort of stressor or challenge or difficulty, whether it be bullying, whether it be divorce, whether it be someone that is having difficulty connecting to their inner confidence, and then some. One of the many ways that you can pledge your support for Joe, for us here at PR from the Heart in the Children's Book Spotlight series, and of course, for those out there, our fellow neighbors on planet Earth, subscribe to PR from the Heart's official YouTube channel and become a proud member of the PR from the Heart family. Join the more than 23,000 members, our loyal YouTube subscribers, by sharing this special trolley stop on your favorite social media platforms of your choosing. Will help this message, these messages that we've discussed, to be able to get into the world, especially for our children, because 2025 is already a great year. We want it to be, even amidst the worldwide challenges, we want this to be the most empowering year for our little ones in the process. But as I mentioned, there are many more magical trolley stops to come. The countdown is on. We see it in sights. We're going to be approaching our 250th episode in a very relatively short period of time. If you are a children's author, if you are a middle grade author and would love to share your inspiring story on a forthcoming edition of the Children's Book Spotlight series, just like Joe did here today on episode number 235 of the program, head on over to our official website, prfromtheheart.com, or connect with us via any of our social media platforms that you now see on screen. Instagram, Facebook, X, all at PR from the Heart. A little tip of the cap to our fellow friend and neighbor. We mentioned his name previously. Of course, we know him and we love him as David Newell. We also know him and love him as the beloved Mr. McFeely on the popular long-running children's television program, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Once again, a little sneak peek. Again, 2 of Joe's brand new children's books, Angelic Dreams and Scared of the Dark, David and I are going to be delivering heartfelt reviews on for our next trolley stop of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast. So if you are a children's author and would love for David and I to deliver a heartfelt review of your brand new children's book on a forthcoming edition of the Neighborly Reviews bookcast, the sister program of the Children's Book Spotlight series, you know where to connect with us via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, and any of our social media platforms, again, which are Instagram, Facebook, and X, all at PR From The Heart. And this has been a beautiful year thus far. And with each passing day, we continue to be grateful for the opportunity to be of service to some of the top children's authors in the world of children's literature, ranging from celebrities like Sharon Lois and Bram, the iconic Sharon Lois and Bram, Skinnamarink Dinky Dink, Skinnamarink Doo, we love you, to luminaries in the world of children's literature like John Parra and Catherine Roy, some of the top published authors and illustrators in the world of children's literature, to those journeys, to those authors whose journeys are just taking flight, writing their first book and stepping more into their own empowerment, their own skills, their own gifts, their own talents, and their own mission that they have. Children's authors are needed now more than ever before, and the ability to get your message out into the world is essential as well, too. If you are a children's author and are looking for dedicated PR publicity support so that you can share the release of your new children's book, to share your inspiring story and connect with more parents, caregivers, grandparents, and educators through the media, connect with us via our official website, prfromtheheart.com, schedule your courtesy connection call, and let us see how we can be of service to you to help you co-create your own book media tour in a city of your choosing, or your very own national book media tour. Again, one final time, head on over to Joe's official website, which we have included in the description below. Of course, you can head on over to Amazon.com, leave 5-star reviews for any of Joe's children's books. Once again, The Magical Treasure Hunt, The Magical Worry Balloon, I Am Different, I Am Me, Bully Proof, I Love School, Two Homes, One Heart, Angelic Dreams, Scared of the Dark, and there's a few other titles as well. By leaving 5-star reviews, technically speaking, I'm holding up 2 hands, so you can actually leave 10 5-star reviews if you want to. There's a reason why I'm doing this. That lets Joe know that she's doing wonderful and much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. Keep the conversation going post-children's book spotlight series. We've actually included Joe's official social media platforms in the description below, so you can keep the conversation going post-children's book spotlight series. And of course, if you are an educator, if you're a teacher, principal, librarian, school superintendent, whether it be in Australia, here in the United States, or anywhere around the world, if you want to schedule your own author's school visit with Joe during the 2025 school year and beyond, head on over to her official website, which once again, we've included in the description below. But once again, when we hear the trolley, that means that it is time to go. We want to thank you for your continued support of PR From The Heart, for your continued support of the Children's Book Spotlight series, for your continued support of children's authors and middle grade authors such as Joe Galloway, who are doing, again, much needed work for children, parents, families, educators, and for those who love great children's books. For the pillars of our community, local libraries and children's and independent bookstores, thank you for your continued support of those. And of course, above all else, we want to thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world. One final time, again, we felt his presence, we felt his spirit, and we're actually just a few days right before Valentine's Day. Interestingly enough, did you know that Fred Rogers weighed 143 pounds during his entire natural adult life? You might be wondering, Joe and John and little Forrest, why are you mentioning that? There's a reason why. Fred Rogers knew what he was doing in his own private numerology. He really knew what he was doing, because there's 1 letter in I, there's 4 letters in love, and there's 3 letters in you. Fred reminded us of our worth, our value, our self-love, and then some. And so as a little tip of the cap to Mr. Rogers, as a little tip of the cap to little Forrest, who's enjoying a collagen treat as we speak, and a little tip of the cap to Joe, both of whom were kind enough to spend some quality time with us here in our neighborhood here today. We share our favorite 3 numbers as we close out this episode of the Children's Book Spotlight series. 243. There's 2 letters in we, 4 letters in love, and 3 letters in you. We are reminding you that you are whole, that you are healthy, that you are complete, that you are loved, that you are special, just the way that you are, that we see not only your worth and your value, we see your inherent worth, we see your inherent value. And again, that friendly reminder from our heart to yours, that we love you, we like you, and we love you just the way that you are. This has been a very refreshing Children's Book Spotlight series episode. Little Forrest is feeling better. I'm feeling better. Joe is feeling better. We're all feeling better when we can have these kinds of conversations, not only for us as parents and caregivers and custodians of our little ones, but even more importantly, for our children. So for little Forrest, for Joe Galloway, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you once again for spending some quality time with us here in our neighborhood. And we hope that you continue to enjoy the month of February and beyond. Happy Valentine's Day or happy National Self-Love Day, depending upon what side of the spectrum that you're on. Either way, love is in the air, but it always begins with yourself. Give yourself that gift. Remind the child or the children in your life to take the time to love themselves as well, too. So again, for little Forrest, for Joe Galloway, for myself, John Masiulionis, thank you for helping us to walk home the children of the world, our fellow friends, fellow neighbors, and our fellow shining stars. Goodbye for now.